In the summer of 1944, a single Tiger tank held an entire British armoured column at bay for 15 minutes. One tank, 14 vehicles destroyed, 15 minutes. Michael Wittmann became a legend that day. The Tiger became a myth, and Germany lost the war, not because the Tiger was weak, but because Germany built it at all. This is the complete story of the Panzerkampfwagen VI Tiger Ausf, the engineering decisions that created it, the men who crewed it, and the strategic disaster that hid behind one of the most feared machines in history. June 1941. Operation Barbarossa. Germany's panzer divisions roll east with total confidence. They had crushed France in 6 weeks. They had swept through North Africa. The Panzer III and Panzer IV had proven themselves against everything Europe could throw at them. Then they met the T-34. The Soviet T-34 medium tank stopped German shells at ranges where German tanks were completely vulnerable. Its sloped armor deflected rounds that should have killed it. Its wide tracks handled the mud and snow of the Russian steppe where German tanks sank and stalled. And then came the KV-1, a Soviet heavy tank that German anti-tank guns could barely scratch. Hitler's reaction was immediate. Germany needed a heavy tank, something that could dominate the battlefield not by numbers, but by sheer superiority. The order went out to 2 companies, Henschel and a man named Ferdinand Porsche. Ferdinand Porsche was one of the most brilliant engineers of the 20th century. He had designed the Volkswagen Beetle. He had a direct line to Hitler himself, and he was absolutely certain his design would win. Porsche and Henschel both presented their prototypes in a formal demonstration on Hitler's birthday, April 20th, 1942. Porsche arrived confident. His tank was bold, powered by 2 Porsche Type 101 engines in a petrol-electric drive system. Innovative, visionary, and completely unreliable. During trials in 1942, it became clear that the Porsche tank was unfit for combat. Its unconventional engine and drivetrain proved unreliable and required too much scarce copper. Copper, in a Germany already strangled by Allied blockade. Porsche's masterpiece demanded a resource Germany could not afford. Porsche was rather arrogant and had already built 10 of his tanks in anticipation of winning the contest. Even worse, he had built an additional 90 hulls. 90 hulls, built before the competition was decided. Wasted. The Henschel design won, more conventional, more practical, more buildable. It entered service as the Panzerkampfwagen VI Tiger Ausf. And those 90 Porsche hulls, they became something else entirely. A story for another episode. The Tiger that Henschel built was extraordinary by any measure. 57 tons of steel, a crew of 5, armor up to 100 millimeters thick on the hull and turret front. But the weapon that defined it was the 80mm KWK-36 cannon. This gun was not designed for tanks. It was an anti-aircraft weapon and the famous 88 that German crews in the Spanish Civil War and North Africa discovered could destroy virtually any tank at ranges that were simply impossible for Allied guns to match. A Tiger could destroy a Sherman tank at 2,000 meters. A Sherman needed to close within a few hundred meters to have any realistic chance of penetrating Tiger armor. In open terrain, against unprepared opponents, the Tiger was close to untouchable. But the Tiger was also something else. It was extraordinarily wide, so wide that it required 2 sets of tracks, wide combat tracks for the battlefield, narrow transport tracks for railway movement, swapping them before every transport and back again after every arrival. Its road wheels were arranged in an interleaved pattern, overlapping layers that distributed weight and improved ride quality. A brilliant engineering solution. That turned into a nightmare in the Russian winter. Mud, ice and debris packed between the wheels and froze overnight. By morning, entire companies of Tigers were immobilized, not by enemy fire, by ice. Germany sent its new wonder weapon into battle before it was ready. The Tiger's first combat was somewhere near the town of Muga, approximately 70 kilometers southeast of Leningrad. 4 machines from the 1st Company of the newly formed 502nd Heavy Panzer Battalion were reportedly involved in the action. 4 tanks, a debut for the most feared weapon Germany had ever built. 2 of the first 4 Tigers broke down before they got near the enemy. 2 tanks, half the force, immobilized. Before firing a single shot, the remaining pair advanced, fired a few rounds in support of infantry, encountered no enemy tanks, and withdrew. One of the bogged Tigers was recovered. The other could not be moved. And here is where the disaster within the disaster begins. The Germans destroyed the stuck Tiger themselves to prevent capture. But Allied intelligence services had already photographed it, examined the wreckage, identified its weaknesses. Germany had revealed its most secret weapon in a swamp without firing a meaningful shot. By 1943, the Allies had captured an intact Tiger in Tunisia. They tested it, they measured it, they found every weakness. And they distributed that information to every tank crew facing Germany. The Tiger's secrets lasted less than a year. Here is the number that changes everything. Each Tiger cost 250,800 Reichsmarks to build, compared to just 117,100 Reichsmarks for a Panther and 103,462 Reichsmarks for a Panzer IV. One Tiger, the cost of 2 Panthers, the cost of 2.5 Panzer rifles. For the resources Germany spent building one Tiger, it could have fielded 2 Panthers, a tank that was faster, had better gun penetration, and could be produced in far greater numbers. Only 1,346 Tigers were completed in total. The Soviets produced over 57,000 T-34s during the same period. The Americans built nearly 50,000 Shermans. The Tiger destroyed enemy tanks at a remarkable ratio. The overall kill-to-loss ratio for all Tiger battalions was 5.74 to 1. Some elite units far exceeded that. But ratios do not win wars, numbers do. And there was another problem, one that never made it into the propaganda films. It was rare to see any unit equipped with Tiger Y tanks operate at full strength due to extended maintenance and repair periods. The Tiger's transmission was its Achilles heel, complex beyond any tank of its era. A single breakdown required specialized equipment to tow, equipment that often wasn't available at the front. Commanders learned to dread the sound of a Tiger's transmission failing, because it often meant abandoning the tank entirely. American soldiers hardly ever met a Tiger in combat. They tended to identify any German tank they met as a Tiger simply on the basis of reputation alone. The myth of the Tiger was so powerful that Allied soldiers reported encountering Tigers that turned out to be Panzer IVs, anti-tank guns, sometimes just shadows in the dark. Germany had built a weapon so expensive and so rare that its psychological impact dwarfed its actual presence on the battlefield. None of this is the fault of the men who crewed the Tiger. They were assigned to heavy panzer battalions, elite units that received the best training Germany could offer. They understood their machine better than any other tankers in the war. Otto Carius was 20 years old when he first climbed into a Tiger near Leningrad in 1943. He would go on to destroy more than 150 enemy tanks. Michael Wittmann commanded a Tiger at Kursk in the summer of 1943. On a single day, his crew destroyed 8 tanks and 7 anti-tank guns. At Villers-Bocage on June 13, 1944, Wittmann destroyed up to 14 tanks, 15 personnel carriers, and 2 anti-tank guns within 15 minutes before the loss of his own tank. These men were extraordinary. Their skill was real. Their courage was real. But they were fighting a war of attrition with a weapon designed for dominance, not volume. And no amount of individual skill could compensate for the fundamental mathematical reality of industrial warfare. While Germany's elite tank aces accumulated kill counts that would never be repeated in military history, the front was collapsing around them. For every Tiger that burned a T-34, 5 more T-34s rolled off a Soviet assembly line. The men inside the Tiger were not the problem. The machine itself, and the decision to build it, was. Today, only one Tiger I remains operational in the world. Tiger 131, built in February 1943, captured in Tunisia. Now preserved at the Tank Museum in Bovington, England. It is not German. It is not a trophy. It is a machine that outlived the nation that built it and the ideology that demanded it. The Tiger's legacy is one of the most complex in military history. In pure combat performance, few tanks have ever matched it. In strategic value, in what it actually contributed to Germany's ability to fight and win the war. It was a catastrophic misallocation of resources. The Soviet Union understood something that Germany never fully accepted: that in total war, the weapon that wins is not the best weapon. It is the weapon you can build enough of. The Tiger was the finest tank Germany ever built, and it was never going to be enough. The Tiger's story doesn't end here. The 90 Porsche hulls that were never used as tanks, they became something else. Something that fought at Kursk and changed armored warfare in ways the Tiger never did. That story is coming. But before that, I want to know what you think. The Tiger had a kill ratio of nearly 6-1. Some historians argue that given the right doctrine and production priorities, a larger fleet of Tigers could have changed the Eastern Front. Others say no amount of Tigers could have overcome Soviet industrial production. Where do you stand? Leave your argument below and bring your sources. If this is the kind of military history you've been looking for, subscribe to Iron Histories. Every war machine has a biography. This was just the first one.